My name is Eleanor Whitmore. I'm 60 years old, and this morning, I woke to the sound of shears against roses. It's the same sound I've heard every spring for 40 years. Except this time, it doesn't come from the old gardener my husband hired. It comes from him. His name is Noah Carter. 25 years old. Hired last autumn to take care of the estate after the last gardener retired. The first day he came, his jeans were torn at the knees, and his hands looked like they'd fought the soil and lost at MY. Friends laughed when I told them I'd hired a boy barely half my age. They called me foolish. I told them I didn't care. The truth is, I didn't hire Noah because I needed help. I hired him because I was lonely. The Whitmore estate sits on 12 acres of carefully cut perfection. Trimmed hedges, marble fountains, a rose garden large enough to hide every mistake I've ever made. After my husband, Richard, passed away 3 years ago, the silence in that house began to echo. Even the ticking of the grandfather clock sounded like a heartbeat fading. So when Noah came, with dirt under his nails and eyes too kind for this cruel world, it felt like life returning. He works quietly, rarely speaks unless spoken to. But every time I step outside with tea, he smiles, that sort of hesitant, honest smile you don't see in rich men's parties anymore. One morning, I asked, "How do you keep the roses from wilting?" He looked up from the soil and said, "You talk to them, ma'am. Plants listen better than people do." That line stayed with me all day. Maybe because I hadn't felt heard in years. The first time I realized I was drawn to him was an afternoon in early May. He was mending the broken trellis by the fountain. The sun fell on his arms and I saw scars, thin white lines running along his skin like old stories. I asked him once, "What happened?" He smiled faintly. "Work accident. Back when I was roofing houses, slipped once." There was more to that story. I could hear it in his pause, but I didn't press. Instead, I found myself asking questions that had nothing to do with flowers. Where did he grow up? Did he have family? Did he like books, music, travel? He told me his mother died when he was 10. His father drank himself into debt. He left home at 16. Worked any job he could find. People like me don't get to dream much. He said that I wanted to tell him that he deserved more. But what right did I have? I was a woman whose life had been handed to her in diamond boxes and silver trays. Yet I'd never felt truly rich. That summer, the estate bloomed brighter than ever. Red Heart. My Red Heart friends noticed. "Eleanor," one said, sipping champagne at the garden party, "what have you done differently this year?" I smiled. "New hands in the garden." They laughed, but I didn't. Every morning, I'd find Noah already working. Dew still on the petals, sun not yet over the hills. I started bringing him breakfast. At first he refused, saying, "You don't need to do that." But after a while he accepted. One day he said, "No one's ever made me breakfast before." Something broke in me then, not from pity, but from tenderness. The first touch happened by accident. I slipped while stepping over the pond stones, and he caught my hand. His palm was rough, warm, steady. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. We both froze. He looked at me. Not like a worker looks at an employer, but like a man seeing a woman for the first time. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "For what?" he asked softly. "For everything," I said, though I didn't know which sin I meant. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through the hallways filled with portraits of Whitmores, men who built banks, women who hosted charity galas, none of them looking happy. In my bedroom, I looked out the window at the garden lights. I could see Noah still there, sitting by the fountain, smoking a cigarette. He looked so small in all that beauty. So lost. And maybe, so was I. Weeks passed. We talked more, laughed more. He began bringing me flowers, not store-bought but hand-picked. "This one reminded me of you," he'd say, handing me a white rose with a petal slightly torn. "Beautiful, but not perfect." One afternoon, rain trapped us in the greenhouse. I remember the smell of wet soil, glass fogging around us. I asked, "Why do you stay here, Noah? You're young. You could find something better." He looked at me with those storm-colored eyes. "I stay because this place feels like home." And then, almost in a whisper, "Because of you." My breath caught. The thunder outside roared, but inside, everything went silent. He stepped closer. His hand brushed a leaf, then my cheek. His skin smelled of rain and earth. And for the first time in decades, I felt alive. He kissed me, gentle, uncertain that I should have stopped him. Instead, I kissed him back. After that day, everything changed. And nothing did that we didn't speak of it that we couldn't that he still worked. I still watched from the window. But there was a new electricity in the air, something sacred and dangerous. At night, I'd hear his footsteps outside the kitchen, and my heart would race. Once he left a note by the teapot. I don't know what this is, but it's the first thing in my life that feels right. I hid the note in my jewelry box, the same one that held my wedding ring. Then came the storm that ended everything. My son, Andrew, came home from London unexpectedly. He was furious before he even stepped through the door. Mother, the staff are talking that you've been seen walking hand in hand